Imagine a world in which the private sector was the driver of change and innovation through improved methods of development and careful design. Many of us have quite strong preconceptions about the private sector, particularly the oil and gas and mining sectors. We often think of them as villainous institutions who will stop at nothing for profit. And while I don't disagree that they have negative impacts upon the environment and societies, they also drive change and innovation through better development and better design. I love wild places, and I'm passionate about helping to preserve the biodiversity found here on Earth. I grew up in the Gatineau Park in Canada, and I spent most of my time in the forest, or in or on Kingsmere Lake. This is me. Poor frog. I was surrounded by biodiversity, the boreal forest, blue herons, and black bears, owls, otters, and turtles. This had a profound impact upon the things that I value and helped to cultivate my love of wild places. As you all know, growing human populations and the demands these numbers place upon natural resources creates very real challenges to the global system in which we live. One such challenge is climate change. Many of you will be familiar with this challenge. Increasing carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere results in increasing temperatures due to the greenhouse effect. We are making progress in this area through carbon accounting, and there are an increasing number of companies and governments adopting progressive climate change-related policies. Fortunately, for climate change scientists, there's a nice, neat number or unit in which to measure the quantity of carbon dioxide, and that is 1 ton of carbon dioxide. Unfortunately for me, I'm less passionate about carbon dioxide and more passionate about biodiversity. And biodiversity, it turns out, cannot be measured in the same way. I tried. This creates very real challenges related to how we measure biodiversity and how we place importance upon different types of biodiversity, be that plants or animals. Nonetheless, companies and governments are also adopting progressive biodiversity-related policies to help protect the wild places that we love. This is Yasuni National Park in Ecuador. This park is renowned for being one of the most biodiverse places on Earth. However, beneath Yasuni National Park's surface lie vast petroleum resources. I am interested in helping to ensure that when faced with a situation like this, we make well-informed decisions in order to address the impacts that development have upon the environment and local communities. Better development through better design. We all depend upon natural resources, and although I support efforts that aim to reduce our dependency upon oil and gas and mineral resources, I also recognize that as we transition to a low-carbon economy with smarter, greener technologies and materials, we must also continue to improve upon our current extraction processes and consumer behaviors. This is the reality in which we live. So I am now studying the impacts that oil and gas and mining companies have upon biodiversity. And I've often heard that it is easier to make lasting change from the inside, and so that is where I've headed. We are making progress. Change is being driven by a number of different things, including regulation, financial lending requirements, stakeholder expectations, risk management, and good old-fashioned human behavior. These drivers of change have resulted in an increase in private sector commitments to managing impacts to biodiversity. In fact, 38 companies have taken it a step further and have made commitments to no net loss of biodiversity. Now, no net loss refers to the point where the amount of biodiversity lost due to a development project corresponds with the amount of biodiversity gained through management and conservation activities. These no net loss commitments have been steadily rising since 2002, as you can see here. And 15 of the 38 commitments made were from the mining sector. And these include some of the biggest global mining companies on Earth and sector leaders. Now, I know what you may be thinking. Either, what? Really? Not possible? Or only 38 companies? It is possible, and I believe that 38 companies is better than 0, especially if these companies are the largest on Earth with numerous projects all over the globe. This image relates to this concept of no net loss and demonstrates the hierarchy of mitigation measures necessary to reach this concept. So on the vertical y-axis, we have our level of impact. This is either positive or negative. No net loss refers to the point where our impacts are 0. Above this line is called net positive impact, which is even better. Below this line, we have our project's negative impact. Now, I'd like to imagine that all of us here in this room today comprise the staff of a large mining company. By a raise of hands, who would like to be the CEO of our company? Okay, some reluctancy, and no women, I've noticed. Okay, I'd like to take this gentleman right here in the front. Thank you very much. Now, we must design a very strategic management system because we've recently made a commitment to no net loss of biodiversity. Our mine is located in an extremely biodiverse area. In addition to our mine, we have a processing plant, we have roads, we have transmission lines for energy, we have a pipeline, and we have a port for shipping to our international markets, all with their associated impacts. These are measured and represented here in red. The first step is that we must avoid impacts where possible. So this will involve rerouting the roads, the transmission lines, and the pipelines to avoid ecologically, socially, and culturally sensitive areas. The second step is to minimize impacts where possible. So this will involve rehabilitating exploration roads, biodiversity rescue and management of both plants and animals, and a systematic water quality management system. The third step is to restore areas impacted by the project. So this will involve reforesting the development site as the mining proceeds, so planting at the rate of clearing. Once we have avoided, minimized, and restored project-related impacts, we will still be left over with some impacts, and these are referred to as residual impacts. The fourth and final step of the mitigation hierarchy is the biodiversity offset. Our biodiversity offset strategy will help address residual impacts and will also help our project reach no net loss of biodiversity. It is important that biodiversity offsets are directly related to project impacts. For example, if you had an offset if you impacted tigers, you could not offset that with elephants. Our biodiversity offset will involve the protection of a local, poorly managed protected area that lacks financial and community support and has the same biodiversity as our project site. Through our involvement, we can demonstrate reduced risk and reduced degradation of biodiversity. If we design additional biodiversity offsets, we might even reach a net positive impact on biodiversity, which would be great. So well done, team, and nice job, CEO. Now, this is by no means perfect, and companies must ensure that each step is undertaken in a meaningful way. This is a challenging task for any development project, regardless of scale or location. Companies must continuously adapt and improve their management systems and strategies throughout the life of the project. This, I repeat, is not perfect, but it is progress. Not that long ago, companies would not think twice about leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. This marks a significant change in the way that companies design and execute their projects. Further efforts and research are needed in order to refine these approaches and address challenges. I was at a special symposium on biodiversity 2 weeks ago in Washington, D.C., and a woman working for a large global environmental consultancy said to me, "We are creating a common language that is the start of common practice." I like that. We are creating a common language that is the start of common practice. We are aligning expectations for how businesses should be conducting their operations. And this involves consultation and engagement with local stakeholders and the scientific measurement of impacts. I would like us to better understand the policy commitments that companies are making and why they are making them. I would like to understand how these commitments translate into the conservation of the wild places that we love, And I would like us to contribute to continuous improvement, change, and innovation. This approach does not only apply to biodiversity and is not limited to oil and gas and mining operations. We must continue to question the way that companies operate, and it is imperative that we keep pushing for improved development and design. We are all a part of this wild global system, in which I know that we can continue to both develop and thrive. Thank you.